Hello YouTube and welcome back. This is Nico and you're watching Dare to Game. Today we're playing Mount Blade Warband and we're doing the World of Ice and Fire mod, and much like the last two videos in this series, we're taking a look at the top 8, for this one it's archers, but troops for Westeros in this mod. So we're going to be going 8 to 1, 8 being the worst, 1 being the best. These are just from Westeros. Like before, we're going to be discounting the Night's Watch because just logistically they're not great for building up large, powerful armies, too expensive and too few villages to recruit from. And yeah, so that's that. We'll be going through stats, cost. I use a system that compiles 5 different factors to decide, where the ranking goes. So it's pretty accurate. So let's just jump right into all of it with number 8. So at number 8, we have the Vale Archer, the absolute worst out of this whole list. It's a level 18 troop, so pretty low there. It has a weekly wage of 10 stags per week, so actually pretty low, pretty affordable. So let's just jump into combat. So the Vale Archer has an archery proficiency of 134, making it, halfway decent. Power draw of 4, so we're looking at, not as fast as it could be. The biggest perk of this one is probably that they're pretty cheap and fast to produce, and then also really cheap to maintain. As I said, just 10 stags a week. So it's pretty dang low, especially for a top-tier archer. They're wildly available because the Vale doesn't really go to war ever. So you go into the Vale and you can go to each village and you'll probably be able to recruit a full army of these guys in one trip. So that's probably the best thing about them. They do have short bows, so it's rapid fire, not as good range, not as good impact. They are not great in close quarters because they have light armor and their weapons are pretty weak, as well as their, hand-to-hand combat proficiencies. So as long as they're from a distance, they're pretty good. So these are more of a station a large garrison of them in your castle because they're cheap and they're not great up close. So that's number 8. Let's move on to number 7. So at number 7, we have the Reach LONGBOWMEN, which I was pretty surprised because I like these guys. I use them a lot in my game. So I was surprised to see them rank so low. They're a level 24 troop, so significantly higher than the Vale, and they have a weekly wage of 18 stags, so more expensive, but still not as bad as they could be. So let's jump into combat. So the Reach LONGBOWMEN has a archery proficiency of 171, so significantly better than the Vale. It's a big jump, and then a power draw of 6, so they are faster firing and more reliable in that regard too. For some pros on these ones, there are tons of villages in the Reach to recruit from because it's the biggest portion on the map, and there's a lot of villages. So it's super easy to build up an army of these guys fast. They're also, again, pretty affordable for maintenance, only 18 stags. With the longbow, they've got that much longer range than the short bows. There's only 2 on this tier level for archers that use a longbow, and there's a lot of advantages to it. It's very powerful and very long range. It is a little bit slower to fire, though, so that's the, I guess, downside. They do have decent armor for archers. They've got that plate on their body, and they do have a helmet, although it's, just a kettle hat. It's not actually a full helm, but with all that in mind, they're decent enough considering how low they rank on the list. So that was number 7. Let's move on to number 6. So at number 6, we have kind of a shake-up here with the Free Folk offering their Wildling Raiders. This is the top-tier archer class for the Wildlings. I was surprised by a lot of things in this, and we'll get into that into deep detail. They are a level 27 troop, but they cost 37 stags, so that's actually the most expensive out of all these on the list. So let's jump into combat. So for these ones, they have an archery proficiency of 208, so it's a decent jump from the last one. They have power draw of 6, so not quite as good as the last, but, better than some. All in all, they're pretty middle of the road, but not quite as much as the next one. As far as pros go, they are really cheap to train. Not to maintain, like I said, they are the most expensive weekly wage at 37 stags, but they're very cheap to train and very quick. It's only like 2 or 3 tiers, and you've got these bad guys. And then, also, the plentiful recruitment. You can get these guys all over the place north of the wall. There's a lot of them available as long as you're not at war with the Free Folk. As far as cons go, like I already mentioned, they are very expensive, and they have really bad armor. They just have the fur on, so it's like one shot anywhere on the body pretty much takes these guys out. So you can build up a pretty cheap army that does decent damage, but once they start getting hit, they're toast. So let's move on to number 5. So at number 5, we have the Stark Boys representing the North with the Northern Hunting Archers. These are a level 27 troop, and they have a weekly wage of 22 stags. Yeah, so there's not much to say about them. Let's move into combat. So as far as stats goes, the Northern Hunting Archers have a level 188 archery, so slightly lower than the Wildlings. and a power draw of 6. So pretty comparable to the wildlings, except for a couple advantages. For one thing, they are cheap and fast to recruit and train. It's like 2 or 3 tiers, again, very fast. Once you have the recruits, you can build up an army of these guys in no time. They do have a nice high damage sword too, which differentiates them from the wildling raiders, because that way once they get up close, these guys actually can still handle themselves pretty decent. They're agile and fast moving due to their lighter armor, so that's nice too, because they can move pretty fast. Unfortunately, they have lower damage than other archers for the same price, which we'll be getting to in a little bit on this list, so that's their weekly wage. Overall, they're pretty middle of the road. I like using them for a lot of things. Another negative thing about them, however, is that unfortunately, for a good portion of the game, if you're playing in the scripted, story mode, which goes along with the story from the books, the north gets piss pounded, and it gets hard to recruit anyone because all the villages in the north are either looted or there's no recruits available. So with that in mind, that was number 5. Let's move on to number 4. So at number 4, we have the only crossbow troops on this list, the Westerlands ARBALESTER. So these are a level 25 troop, and their weekly wage is 19 steg, so actually pretty cheap. Yeah, so let's just jump into combat. So the Arbalesters have a crossbow proficiency of 181, making them pretty powerful. Power draw of 6. They are actually better than most when it comes to close-up combat because they have a pretty good arming sword and a decent shield which covers a portion of their body and has pretty good durability. They're pretty fast and cheap to upgrade like most archers, or at least most of them so far, only having 2 or 3 upgrade levels. They do have very high damage crossbows, high damage and accuracy, quite a bit slower firing rate, and I think also lower ammo capacity. But they're higher damage and more accurate. So, sacrifices here and there. But that is it for number 4, so let's move on to number 3. So at number 3, we have the STORMLANDS BOWMEN representing Big Bobby B. These ones have a weekly wage of 22 stags, and they are level 27 troop. So, you can see they look like all the other Stormlands troops, so let's just see how they fight. So the Stormlands Bowmen have a decent archery proficiency of 202, making their shots pretty damn powerful. Unfortunately, only a power draw of 5, so they do fire a little bit slower and, I guess, weaker than some of the other ones on the list. As far as pros are concerned, they are good with a sword. They are one of the best on this list, when it comes to up-close combat, and that's good because when you're fighting on the open field like that, you'll often get the chance to see. They do have more rapid fire coming from their short bow, which is great for a lot of instances. Better so in defense, like when they're being used for defense castle. That's where that rapid fire comes in real handy. They're quick and cheap to train. The upkeep is a little high. Unfortunately, with that rapid fire with the short bow, they do have reduced range. So that's really the only con with these guys. They are plentiful to recruit because the Stormlands is a big enough place, lots of villages. So yeah, all around decent troop, but that's number 3. So let's move on to number 2. So at number 2, we got the people representing the Lord of Light themselves, the Dragonstone Archers. These are Stannis' boys. So these are a level 27 troop, much like the Stormlands one, or exactly like them, and again, 22 stags, just like the Stormlands one. Bunch of copycats. So that's all that we can say here, so let's just see how they fight. So for stats with this one, they have an archery of 202, that's the proficiency, same as the Stormlands, but unlike the Stormlands, they have a power draw of 6, making them a little, slightly superior on the field than the Stormlands Bowmen. As far as they go, again, like the Stormlands ones, they're pretty good with the sword, so again, these ones are good close up. Decent armor, too. The padded plate for their, Gamson, or, Cuirass, as you want to say. Steel, or at least steel-plated, greaves and gauntlets, and then they've got their, decent helmet. So, good armor, they're, like I said, pretty good with the sword. They do have that rapid fire short bow, so again, these are better for defense, but they can fire a lot more rounds per minute than the other ones. And unfortunately, much like the last one, so we're sacrificing that range for the rapid fire. And the biggest downfall about these ones, not specifically for the archers, but trying to build an army with them, is limited recruitment. There's not many villages in Dragonstone's control, even starting at the game, and then once you get into it, they lose some of those villages, at least usually to the Stormlands. So recruitment can be tough, but that's number 2, so let's move on to the best. So at number 1, we got Brynden Tully's bad boys from the Battle of the Whispering Woods, the Riverlands Rangers. These are the all-around best archers that can be found in Westeros in this mod. They're a level 29 troop, and they have a weekly wage of 25 silver stags. So let's see how they fight. So, as far as stats go for the Riverlands Rangers, we have an archery proficiency of 254, making them well and above the best archery troop in the at least for Westeros in the game. They have power draw of 7, again, nice and high, repping higher than all the rest on the list. As far as pros for these ones go, they're long range and high damage because of the longbows, which is very nice. They're versatile in all combat proficiencies, though, thus the, name Ranger. So they're I wouldn't say just as good because their armor is light, but they're really good up close with the sword. So when that happens, don't worry about it. So basically what we're dealing with here is just a really beefed up version, except for armor wise, of the Reach Longbowmen. And really the only weakness here being, well, there's 2 of them. 1, their armor isn't as good as it could be, and 2, if you wait too long in the game, the Riverlands kind of gets their butts kicked, at least usually, so they can be hard to recruit. But that's all for this video. That is the last one and the best one. So hope you enjoyed it, but that's all for today. Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. If you did, I can assume you liked the content, and hopefully you'll subscribe and turn on the notification bell. If you haven't already, check out these links I have on the screen to see me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you like my content and would like to support what I do here, there's a link to my Patreon account in the description, and a donation would be much appreciated. In any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day.